Welcome back to the Weekly Intention with Michael Mulder. I've got a very special guest for you today, and before I introduce him, if you want to learn about taking massive action in your life, balancing mountains of stress like a champion, and eventually becoming your own boss, then keep watching. This is probably a good episode for you. If you do find value from these podcasts, definitely like and subscribe, share these, comment these, do whatever you want. We definitely want to grow this show. And without further ado, this man next to me works for the largest hospitality tech company in the world right now, servicing clients like the Cosmopolitan. He's a real estate investor, currently owns 9 properties across Delaware and Arizona, and is also an early stage investor in companies like Airbnb and Impossible Foods, and a very close friend of mine, Will Darrah. Thanks for jumping on, man.
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate being here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as I had mentioned in the last show, I always like to bring business leaders or entrepreneurs in and really just talk about, how they got to where they were and really break it down into a few topics today. And the reason I brought Will onto this show is not only has been very, very successful in his career, but he's able to balance, all these very, very difficult things and still make time for friends. I mean, like I said, he's a good friend of mine, so I've always been interested in him, and I think that's a really good place for us to start, is to talk about balance. So, Will, we were talking about this before. You just live a crazy life, man. You really do. I mean, the things that you've done, and even to this day, I mean, you're 37 and you're just constantly going. Where do you think that comes from? When did that all start for you?
Yeah, for me, basically I went to a really competitive high school back in the day, and I think just the work ethic and the amount of stress that just kind of came from that work environment. I went to school in Philadelphia, and it was one of the top private schools in Philadelphia. Graduated with like 89 kids, and 35 of them went to Ivy League schools. So every time I went to school, I was like competing against all these really smart kids. Mm-hmm. What I realized is that I'm not that smart. I just can outwork everybody. So I'll just work harder. So I'll just put more hours into the day to try to accelerate, my growth and stuff like that. But I would say, kind of where kind of things started for me was, long ago, I watched my dad, go through various stages of his career. Mm-hmm. He was in the Navy, God bless him in his service. Then he worked for Johnson & Johnson for 20 years. And then, it was kind of an economic downturn at the time. And he got laid off. Mm-hmm. And he was in human resources, which, you got to be very careful because companies know that either you either die, retire, get fired, mm-hmm. and that there's the next crop of kids coming in behind you that's faster, smarter, and more importantly, cheaper than mm-hmm. you. And so therefore, he got let go. And I watched for like 5 to 6 years. He just bounced from contracting job to contracting job to contracting job, and he never made any more money. Because when you're 50 to 60 years old, people don't recognize you for your experience anymore. Mm-hmm. They look at you and they say, "Oh, there's a big price tag on this guy. Mm-hmm. Do I really need him to be a big price tag in the HR department?" Mm-hmm.
And this is, I don't mean to cut you off. This is an excellent quote. And if you want to hear this quote, you got to watch till the end of the video, because I'm going to save this actual quote to the very, very end. Because it honestly is, like, when you said it to me, I was like, dude, this is such a good point. But really, like, everything that you're saying in your company, and I guess everything that you're kind of wrapping up, what I really want to understand is when you're in your 20s and 30s, especially here, people are in the mindset of like, I need to party. Like, I need to have time to have friends and like to drink and to do all these things. And it's almost that sense of like FOMO. Like, everyone's got major FOMO. I don't want to put in work because I'm going to miss out time, or I'm going to miss out on this brunch or this or that. You've done a really, really good job at maintaining friendships, but knowing when it's time, to work. And when we talked about your 20s and 30s, I forget how you said it. You said it a really cool way. You were like, in my 20s, I basically took all the time. So talk about like what mindset you were in from school that kind of brought you to, this point, I guess, just in terms of balancing that.
Yeah. So, basically when I graduated college, I thought, I graduated number 1 from a hospitality school at University of Delaware. And I thought that graduating number 1 from hotel school that everybody would want to draft me as sort of somebody who would work at their hotel. Mm-hmm. What I quickly realized is that, no, I'm not a doctor and I don't build bridges or skyscrapers. And so, to be frank, since you have no experience, nobody wants you. And so you actually have to start at the bottom of the totem pole. And so I remember taking my first job. I was making $33,000 a year. And I was like, okay, what do I do? Like, I only make a certain finite amount of money. I want to move up in my career, which means I got to put in the hard work. And how do you sort of juggle those two? How do you continue to move up? How do you juggle your personal life? And my first job out of college, I actually worked in Delaware at the Hotel DuPont. And it was funny, when I moved out of college, I was living still near the University of Delaware. But what I realized is when I went back to college to go have fun with my friends, they were like, dude, you're so old now. Like you have to go on to like adult life and like get out of here. And so I couldn't go back to college to go like hang out with my fraternity and my friends because they were like shunning me because I was like 1 year older than them.
Oh, wow.
And so they were like, go live in the real world. And then you realize, I think Blink-182 said it best. Nobody likes you when you're 23. Is that when you're 23 years old, you're literally a guy at the bottom of the totem pole. So you don't have enough money to like drive a nice car and making all this money. So really you have to focus on your career. So I literally lived at home in my parents' second house, and they didn't charge me rent. God bless them. I paid all the bills. I had a Mercedes at the time. I would drive my Mercedes to the bus stop to get on a bus for $1.30 and drive that to work and then back home. It was like such a humbling experience for 2 years in doing that. But what it really taught me is it's not really how much money you make at $33,000, but how much money you save. Because every cost that I could cut out, I could save more money and then create that as a down payment for my first house. So what I was doing is I was constantly working at this hotel, wanting to accelerate my hotel path, but also thinking to myself that I wanted to start my own business in real estate. That's
amazing. And I kind of envy you. I went to North Dakota State. My friends weren't telling me to stop partying. I had to tell myself that. So the fact that you had people telling you like, go and do that, that's really, really awesome. And I think you brought up another really good point, which is practicality. A lot of people, when you get out of college, like myself, I got into sales and I wanted to be the top guy. I wanted to be the best. I wanted to make as much money as possible. And I wasn't really thinking about laying, the proper foundation and being practical. When you had talked about like living at home and like setting my path early and living with that, humility, that's such a great thing.
Yeah. Certainly there's, living in Delaware, there's not a lot to do. So I my first 2 years, 3 years out of college, I didn't have that much to do because really I didn't have sort of the a bunch of friends who were like, let's go out every single weekend and do a bunch of stuff. Mm-hmm. And so, I've really focused on my career and saying, hey, how do I like bunker down, move up at this particular hotel? I was told that I couldn't do something, which I wanted to be a revenue manager of a hotel. What a revenue manager does is he sets the rates, the pricing elasticity of hotel rooms. Mm-hmm. So I know I could manage all the VIPs. So I managed, celebrities coming into the hotel, putting them in suites, it was pretty cool. And then obviously just pricing the hotel based off of supply and demand. And so I did that, and I just worked really, really hard. It was like a game for me. How do I make more money today and tomorrow and this month and next month than my competitors in the market? So that became a game for me. And then after I did that, then I was like, all right, for about 2.5 years in Delaware, I was like, I got to get out of this state. I want to go do something else. Mm. And that's when I first moved to Arizona, which then I would say there's a lot more to do out here. There's probably a lot more ways to get into trouble too.
Mm. So the temptation is a lot lower in Delaware. So it was easier to stay keeled because you didn't have a lot of opportunities to do that. And that brings up a great point too, because by the time you had gotten to Arizona, you had seen a little bit of success. You were a little bit established already.
Yep.
So you had more, cash in the pocket to do that type of thing. I'm really, really interested to hear how did you balance the temptation? Because there is so much to do out here, from the nightlife, from you name it, they have it here. So I'm really curious, like just mentally, how you kind of pushed out those things and knew that it was time to work when it was time to work.
Well, I think I do a really great job of budgeting my time throughout the week, and then realizing like when is it acceptable to have fun and when it's acceptable to not, and to really bunker down. So it just becomes a priority for yourself. So, Monday through Friday, I would usually be traveling for work, selling technology across the country. I oversaw the entire West for the company. And so I was on an airplane literally every week, flying to a different city, staying in a hotel room, meeting different hoteliers, going out and enjoying, relationshiping and building time with them. But then on the weekends, I'd come back to Scottsdale, and of course, I'd certainly go out on the weekends with my friends. Honestly, like I'm in my 20s, I'm going to go out, I'm going to go have a good time. Yeah. But I think it's just making sure that you prioritize, keeping kind of both worlds a little bit separate. Mm-hmm.
Cool. And yeah, that is a really good point, talking about balancing your time. But most people in their 20s, they don't have that foresight to say, like, I'm going to block out this amount of time and be dedicated to these things. Like, they have goals and they have things that they want to accomplish, but sometimes, fun will come first. Like, if there's a party that pops up, if there's something that I want to do more, they won't have, that discipline to say no. And usually I think that starts, in the household. Where do you think you got, that level of discipline from to say, I'm going to accomplish these things, which obviously, I've transcribed to now?
Well, I think it just depends on, what you want to accomplish in life, right? If you want to accomplish going out and having relationships and having a party lifestyle and just doing that, okay. But for me, like, I wanted a deeper purpose, more meaning in life. Mm-hmm. And so, my goal was to, how do I move myself up the ranks in my hotel world, make more money, take on a bigger team, take on all of North America, become the leader basically in the hospitality technology space, make more money, but then also be able to then grow my own company. And so that became, career first was my priority, and it was, call it party second, or hang out with friends second. And so again, I think it just boils down to, setting boundaries for yourself and setting the right expectations.
And clear objectives. I think that's something that a lot of us struggle with is, we've got an idea, or we might have an idea of things that we want to accomplish, but you have to be crystal clear on what it is and be like visual. Something that I do in my day-to-day is I write things out. Like, I write things on a paper so I can see it and physically know what I'm going to do in the day, whether that's a checklist for, the day, the week, the month, or the year. So I think visualization is really, really good for that too.
Yeah. I tell a lot of the people that work for me, they're in sales, they've got a lot on their plate, they're doing a lot of things. Put a whiteboard next to your desk and put like all of your different priorities down. As what do you want to accomplish for this week? What do you want to accomplish, with this particular account?
There you go. I can hear you now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, what do you want to accomplish with this particular account? When was the last time you reached out to this particular account? All of that stuff needs to go on a whiteboard, because every single day when you come into your office and you look at your whiteboard, you go, okay, that's what I want to accomplish for today. Oh, did I do anything in fitness for today? No. Okay, I should do something in fitness. Oh, did I do something in personal finance for the day? Did I do something for this particular account? So whatever it is, you should definitely map out what your priorities are and your objectives, and then track toward those.
And holding yourself accountable too. If I didn't do what I said I was going to do, what is the repercussion to that? We live in a world without consequences where it's
right. You shouldn't go out for a reward when you didn't do what you said you were going to do.
Exactly. Correct. I skipped the gym. I skipped my whatever meeting or my presentation, and now I'm going out. It's just like it's honestly rewarding bad behavior, which I think we do a really bad job of in America. But I love that visualization in combination with clear, defined goals. I think that's a recipe right there.
I agree.
And that actually brings me to a good segue. I love to talk about balance and everything that you do in your day to day. And I want to talk about the leaps that you've taken. But before we even talk about, taking action on some of those things, I think the forefront of taking action is self-belief. You won't set out to do something or accomplish something if you don't believe that you can achieve or you can have that thing. At what point did you realize, I could be this high in this company, or I can, have 9 properties, or I can do, some of these things that honestly aren't talked about and a lot of people aren't doing, in your circles?
Yeah. So where my real estate passion came from was me writing a $500 check to my landlord every single month and having him come inspect the property. And he owned 3 houses, one across the street and then 2, the house that I was in and the one next door. And so I was like, man, this guy and his wife, literally, we mow their lawn. We pay them rent, we do everything, and all they do is they own the whole house, and then we pay them. Yeah. And I was like, wait a second. There's something going on here that I need to get into. I need to get into this mailbox money thing. Mm-hmm. And so that's where kind of that passion started from, in terms of how do I get my first property and how do I get in the game? Mm-hmm. And so how you get in the game is you have to save up enough for a down payment. You need to find a location-based property, AKA I bought 4 houses on the college campus which means every single year I don't have to work that hard. College kids reach out to me. You put up a for rent sign, you'll get 35 phone calls in 7 days. You might pay a little bit more for the property, but I don't really want to work that hard for the money.
This is gold right here, by the way, if you're listening.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what I did. So I bought up my first property for $279,000. The bank let me put 10% down, so I had to come up with $27,900. Plus there's closing costs, so maybe that's another $6,000. So all in, I had to have about $33,000 in the bank. And if you think about if you could save, say $1,000 a month, in 12 months you have 12 grand in your bank account. So if you start today and you could save $1,000 a month, in 3 years you can go buy an investment property. Now, when I bought it, my monthly payment was about $1,500. I flipped it in a week for $2,200. Because what I did was I rented out each bedroom individually to a student instead of thinking about renting it to a family for a much lower cost. And so that's how I started with one property. But what I also realized early on too is if you can't change your outcome of your job that you're in right now, which I couldn't change mine. I was valued coming out of college at $33,000 in hospitality. Couldn't change that. I could work hard and get promoted and get to the next level, which then got me to $42,000. But at $33,000, I couldn't change my outcome. Buying that house and making an extra $700 a month, that put an extra, $8,600 in your bank account. So now you're not making $33K. You're making $33K plus $8,600, which you're producing as passive income on the side. So now you're over $40,000 without changing your outcome in your own job.
This is amazing. And if I'm hearing you correctly, you're realizing early in life, this is my value of where I'm at in this specific field, but I have the option to diversify. And there are other things that I can take on in the meantime, if I'm willing to put in the effort towards that. And then something you also said is if I'm writing it down and I do the math, why wouldn't I believe in it? Right. It's math. I mapped out a plan. I mapped out a specific plan as to how I'm going to make this happen.
Exactly. Yeah. So, my belief really just came from, I saw somebody else do it. They were my landlord. They had 3 properties. That was the most that he ever wanted, and that's fine. I wanted to be bigger than that. So how do I do that? How do I get my first property? And then how hard is it to manage a property? How hard is it to manage tenants? You hear all these doom and gloom stories. Not every story is doom and gloom. Certainly I have a couple of doom and gloom stories. Everybody does in the real estate business. But, you start with one, get your feet wet, and then say, okay, how do I grow to a second one? I wasn't taught this in school. So, it was reading books and then watching YouTube and just trying to figure out, okay, well, what do I need to do next?
I think the applicable takeaway for everybody from that is asking questions. One, why not me? And two, if you see somebody else physically doing this, you know that it's not impossible. Like you just said, I saw a landlord doing it.
Yep.
Clearly it can't be done. He's no smarter than me. So, man, you just do a good job of asking questions and diversifying and finding opportunities.
Yeah, and then he was also a lawyer, so I took his lease because he wrote a 17-page lease. So I was like, I don't want to pay a lawyer. This guy is a lawyer, so I just took his lease and then changed the property address, and then of course, got it right back out there.
If it isn't broke, don't fix it.
That's
I
it.
mean, this is the perfect example of this show. Before any of this equipment was here, before he was sitting here, I knew zero about editing videos, zero about even turning on a Canon camera. But YouTube is such a good resource. And if you're just willing to ask questions and seek the knowledge, I think that it's out there for pretty much anything you could want. We live in a digital age where there's not really an answer you can't find.
Yep.
I don't think.
I agree.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I honestly, I made a video on self-belief, so I think that's such a huge thing. So I think if we were going to wrap a button on that, I would say ask questions and to get specific about opportunities. So that is good on that. We were talking about taking a leap, and I think self-belief and taking a leap go hand in hand. But a lot of these things, it's getting out there and doing it. You can think about something all that you want. I can think about buying a property, or I can think about getting a promotion at work, or I can think about, you can think till you're blue in the face. And there's actually a saying for it. It's called paralysis by analysis. You think so much about something that you're literally paralyzed with fear. Has there been any point, in your career, whether it's promotion or an investment amount or a certain property where you're thinking to yourself, is this a good idea? Should I do this? Whether it's am I big enough to do this? Or who do you think you are? Have you had any of those thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, all the time. There's not just one specific example, but all the time. I mean, one of the biggest, I call it fears to overcome was, I'm from Philadelphia. Like, we're in Arizona. Like, my whole family's in Philadelphia. How do you move across the country away from your family to a place that potentially could call it be greener pastures for yourself? So if you've always had a vision of like, I see myself moving to California, or I see myself moving to Colorado because I think I would be a good fit there, like, how do you do that? And how do you do that with no family support? Meaning my family would support me. Yeah, go do it. But like, they're not physically here. So, I mean, granted, we live in a digital world. You can, Zoom with them. You can FaceTime them, right? So I have great relationships with my support system, my family, my brother. When I got out here, I started convincing friends to move out here. So that certainly helped. So I did get a couple of my good friends to move from Philadelphia out here too. And again, what I actually had realized early on too is the East Coast mentality is a little bit more reserved, and it'll take a lot longer for me to get to the top. It's only because of like the hierarchy structure is a little bit more in place, and the West has a little bit more opportunity in terms of like, doing what you will, being, I guess, more inclusive and open to various ideas, and then people moving up in various directions. And so, I saw a faster path to success moving out West, and that's why I did it. But, certainly that change to move to a new place. I mean, I'll give you this example. Joining a new company, my first day was in Las Vegas, the Planet Hollywood. I flew in. I had no idea how a casino, I've never even been to Vegas at that point, how a casino works. I'm sitting on the Strip, and if you've been to Vegas, it's like,
this giant beast, and I'm like, what is this place?
It's overwhelming. Yeah,
I get an anxiety attack just like looking at all this stuff.
Yeah. The second thing is that my moving company was going to be delivering my stuff in Arizona while I'm in Vegas. So I'm like handing $2,200 to the rental manager, like, hey, would you mind if they just drop all the boxes in my unit? I'll be back for them later. And then I remember like flying in on Friday, and there's like 35 boxes, futons and all that stuff in my place. And I'm like, what am I doing? This is just crazy. But, I always think you got to take that leap because you have a belief. And you think that, hey, look, I think that this career change is a good move for me into hospitality technology. I saw a path there to success. I saw that moving to this place, in Arizona was a good move for me. The reason why I like Arizona is because it's 1/3 the cost of living in the rest of the United States. I could have moved to San Francisco. I could have moved to LA. But guess what? What I said at the very beginning is you got to watch your costs. Because at the end of the day, those costs go right back into your business. They go right back into fueling your fund, shall we say. And so I just think that, sometimes taking a career leap, that's but you could always go back. If it doesn't work out here, you can always go back to your support system. You can always move back. And guess what? I did that. Actually being out here for 2 years, I then got promoted, and I moved back east.
I didn't know that, actually.
I did. This is my second tour of duty out here. So I actually moved back east, because I got a promotion. They offered me like $25,000 more to move back east. And when I moved back east, I could live anywhere I want in the East. So I'm thinking, New York, Miami. I moved back home with my mom and dad. This is crazy. I'm 26 years old. The last place you want to move is right back home with mom and dad.
Yeah.
So I'm making like $150,000 at this point, living at home with mom and dad.
Not bad.
Not bad. Sitting on their couch.
Not a bad.
Mom's doing the laundry, making food. Right. So, but again, the way I thought about it was, I guess if I just cut my costs and I just kind of do this, then I'll have more solid footing in another year or another 2 years. Right. If that's let's say $2,000 a month in rent or $1,500 a month, that's $30,000 a year. $24,000, $20 to $24,000 a year. That's somewhere between $40,000 to $48,000 in 2 years. What is that? Another down payment on a house, which is exactly what I did. It bought another passive income property.
God, you are so mathematical. I think that now I'm understanding it all. I mean, some of these things I didn't even get about you. The fact that like you are able to check your ego at the door, and like you'll do things that other people won't to put yourself ahead in life. Like when you talk about like, I'm going to move home with my parents at 26 because that equals $30,000 in my pocket to put down on another property. And I think people are so scared of what other people think about them, one, and two, they're not willing to do what it takes. Like they're not willing, I want this, like it would be nice, but I'm not willing to put everything I have into making this happen.
Right.
And I think like
You're
one,
right.
your dedication to that, and two, like you checking your ego and actually be willing to do what it takes are both amazing qualities.
Yeah. I just think that like, it's nice to go get the new car or to lease or finance. First of all, that's a depreciating asset. Mm-hmm. It's a liability. Cars are not good. Get rid of your cars. I buy beater cars. Like, I just bought a Range Rover. Cool car, right? 150,000 miles on it, 10K. Like, I don't need like the latest Range Rover that's out there, but I wanted it. And honestly, the only reason why I got it is to haul flooring so I could learn how to lay floors at my rental properties. And I didn't have a trunk big enough to put flooring in there and to hold the flooring. So, but yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I just think you do have to figure out where can I sacrifice, whether it be in a little bit of a lifestyle change, to be able to achieve whatever the goal is that you're trying to get to.
What would you say to somebody that just can't check their ego? Like they're just so worried about what other people think of them that they just like, they want to, but they just like, they can't get over that hurdle in their mind. Like, I can't drive the old car. Like, I can't do that. Would you say they don't want it that bad? Or what would you say is
No, I just say, why do you care? Why do you care what other people think? That's really it. So everything you do, is it for yourself or is it for others? And if you think about it, the people who can't check their ego, it's because they're constantly doing things to benefit or try to impress other people. Mm-hmm. But if you truly check your ego and say, what I'm doing right now, I want to do it for me. I want to take this fitness class because I want to lose weight. I want to, I'm going to do this because I know I can save a little bit more money. And when I have that money, I'm going to be able to do this, which is going to take me to the next level. So like if you constantly call it selfishly about yourself and what you want, then hopefully you can check your ego at the door and say, hey, look, maybe it's not so important that I go do that.
Dude, that's amazing. I always wait to make like the video title until after I do it just to see like where it goes. And I think what I'm going to call this one is Check Your Ego with Will Darrah.
I love it.
Literally. Because that's like, that's the heart of like everything that you've said here. So obviously, there's like TED Talks. If I were to like submit you for a TED Talk, I'd be like, talk about checking your ego at the door with a TED Talk.
Okay.
I don't know if they have that or not, but I would listen to that for sure. So 1 second here. Yeah. We're done in like 10 minutes. Yeah. Awesome. There we go. Like I said, I can't.
You knew it was coming.
I knew it was coming eventually. It has to come. I might even leave that in the video. Who cares? But really, I call this show The Weekly Intention. And I give people like digestible intentions for their life and like what they hope to accomplish in their life and how they can like actually make conscious choices for their life. And I think in the entrepreneurial space in particular, like there's a huge emphasis on getting out of the rat race, becoming your own boss, like making something of your life and like controlling your time, yep. Controlling your own destiny, all of those different things. And when we were having lunch the other day, we had talked about your dad, and this is why I was holding it on, because I want people to hear this right now. Listen to this quote. But you were talking about your dad, and he's 50, and yep. He's doing all these different jobs, and I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, so like I said, my dad was 50 when he got laid off from Johnson & Johnson, and then went through sort of this period where I was growing up and I was working really hard at school. And then he worked for like Velasic Pickles, he worked for Rollerblade, he worked for the TSA, hiring federal air marshals on airplanes. And it was like 2-year gig, laid off. 2-year gig, laid off. And I just said to myself, I was like, that's so weird that you could work literally 30 years and then just get laid off and laid off and laid off. And then I just realized, you're not in control of your freedom, right? The control that you have is I have to make a certain amount of income. And if I don't, or my self-worth, if you get laid off, you don't think you're worth anything, right? Everybody's worth something, but like it's about freedom, it's about self-worth. But as he kind of like progressed in his career, he got to a point where the next gig that he wanted wasn't going to pay him what he was worth, or what he believed to be worth. So to go back into the work environment, it just didn't make a whole lot of sense for him. So, he did retire early. Now, was that a good move, bad move? I think it's put a little bit of strain on the family a little bit. I think he always constantly thinks about the dollar and like, should I be spending here? What type of investment decisions? Did I make always good investment decisions? But for me, when I saw that, I said to myself, I don't want that to ever happen to me. I want to be able to choose what I want to do. And I want to create passive income that replaces my primary income so that therefore I'll just, at some point I'll fire myself because I just won't want to do it anymore, or I'll sell my houses off. But I think you just have to think to yourself, how do I create passive income, one or two forms of passive income, whether or not you're good on Etsy and you want to sell stuff on Etsy, you want to flip baseball cards on eBay, whatever your interests are.
You want to start a podcast.
You want to start a podcast, man, sell advertising, sure. I just think that whatever you're interested in, you have to, if you're passionate about it, then it won't feel like work. Like, I'm passionate about real estate, but it's exciting to me to like talk to potential tenants, put them in the house. Sometimes I even design the house with them. And the reason why I do that, I enroll them in the design process, is because they'll stay longer. Because they're like, oh my God, he built this wall for me, and he painted that color of the wall that way. He put fresh carpet in here, and people just don't leave.
They don't leave,
and they stay. And I have this guy in one of my rental properties right now. No, man, I'm checking out October 28th. I'm moving out. Today he's like, hey, man, I really need to stay the month of November too. Is that okay? Like, I'm actually supposed to move back into that house. Now I don't have a place to live. So now I'm like, okay, where am I going to go live?
You got to figure it out. Before we go any further, I want to break that down because I think that's such a good point from the very beginning there. When you had talked about like your dad experiencing that and you not wanting to experience that, I think the biggest impacts and like the biggest moments I've had in my life were moments of failure. Like, when you fail, that's when you learn. And you got to watch your dad go through something very, very hard so you could say, I don't want that to happen to me myself.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of people are scared to fail because we have this negative connotation in society that like failing is bad. I don't want to fail. Like, I don't want to go through hardship. Yeah. I really feel like as a whole, we have to realign what failure means, because failure isn't bad. It's actually like some of the best things that could ever happen to you.
Yeah. And the biggest thing is that you want to fail fast. So if you're going to fail, that's fine, but just fail fast and realize, oops, I shouldn't have done that. How do I course correct and get on the right track? And so it's if you fail and then you dawdle on it and you're like, oh my God, why am I? And you just think about it and it just lasts way too long. Just realize like, hey, look, I failed. It didn't work. That's okay. What would I do differently? Competitors, entrepreneurs, that's all entrepreneurs do. All they do is fail all day long. They just fail because you have to trial and test and figure out what works, and whatever works, do more of that. Whatever doesn't work, then stop doing that and do something different.
And the second thing to that too is like living in the present and focusing on what you can control.
Exactly.
I've had plenty of times in my life where I've had a failure, and if you consistently like hold your definition of yourself to be that failure, like you're not going to succeed because you're stuck in the past. Like you're stuck in that moment of like, I'm so stupid. Why did I do this? Or I'm no good. So being able to like break away from that moment and kind of make peace with it, I think is super, super important too.
I agree.
And then, dude, I love the word purpose. I think it's overused in today's society, but like for this doesn't feel like work. Like I enjoy this and I love doing this. And I think that if you want to be truly successful in this world, like, and be happy, you have to find that purpose. Like money is only going to take you so far. Like Absolutely. You have to find something you like.
You know what I learned in my 20s early on, I had a really great mentor. And he said, Will, when you want to lean your ladder up against a building, it could be hospitality, which is what I lean my ladder up against. It could be in the medical profession. It could be in construction, whatever it is. You're going to start climbing that ladder. And it takes about 7 years for you to reach your peak earnings. Not the most amount of earnings, but like really solid, awesome earnings. People don't commit to 7 years. People commit to 3 or 4, and they realize I don't like it. You have to slide down the ladder, move your ladder, and climb up 3 or 4 more years. And then you don't like that. You never get to your peak earning potential. Mm-hmm. But then what happens is as your 20s go by, you get to your 30s. You have more responsibilities. Maybe you have a family. Maybe you start to have kids. You go up 3 years, 4 years. Maybe you go up all 7 years, and you realize, gosh, I really hate what I do. Why do I hate my life? Like, why do I hate this so much? But you can't then slide down the ladder and move the ladder again because now you have a base living that you need to provide. Mm-hmm. And the question is, like, how do you make sure that in your 20s you really discover what those passions are, fuel those passions, and say, hey, I want to go all in on this, start climbing that ladder. You'll realize once you hit about year 7, you'll start earning some serious money, and then take that money. Even if you don't like, people change their careers. I think it's like up to 7 times throughout their lifetime.
Yeah.
7 times. So you don't have to like everything you do.
But why not do it now?
But why not do it now?
Why not fail now?
Start now.
Gary Vaynerchuk always talks about that. He says, you just haven't tasted enough things. And like,
exactly.
I remember being stuck in that period for years where I just was questioning, like, why am I doing what I'm doing, this or this or this? But then I wouldn't make a change to go do something else. And it wasn't until I started making that change and like tasting those other things, I realized, oh, there's a science to this. Like, that's how you learn. That's how you grow. Like, you try other things.
Yeah. And you shouldn't look at somebody else and say, well, wait a second, they're doing well, I'm not doing well. Well, they're on a different building. They're on a different freaking ladder. So like if they're climbing the ladder and they're in like, selling cars and I'm climbing the hospitality ladder, I can't even compare myself to that person because we're just in two different trajectories. So if they want to be like, own a dealership one day, I don't know anything about owning a dealership, but I do know how to run a hotel and I do know how to sell technology to hotels. And I do know what the trends are in the hotels because I really wanted to learn and own that space. And so you just read everything you can to be the best that you possibly can be in that area, in that field. And then once you hit about 7 years, you can call yourself an expert. So
being hyper-focused with a little bit of humility, a little bit of patience, and a lot of dedication to to learning that thing and understanding that you can always make course corrections.
Yeah.
And then on top of that too, how can I be focused on my lane if I'm way over here looking at somebody else's lane and what they have going on? There's just no way.
It was kind of interesting. So I also go back and speak at University of Delaware, and I just had a senior girl reach out to me. I guess the university likes to give out my phone number in case somebody wants a job after college. And she's getting her MBA. She's a senior girl, and she's like, hey, a torpedo just hit the hospitality industry and most hotels are closed during this global pandemic. What do I do? I'm graduating. I need help. And I was like, hey, look, I think you should probably shift your course for the next 3 to 4 years out of hospitality. And you really got to be on trend with what's happening around us. What is happening around us, right? You got Walmart going up against Amazon right now. You got the home builders building massive houses, people doing massive renovations. So the Home Depot, the Lowe's, the Lennar Homes, you've got interest rates historically at an all-time low. So more people want to go buy homes right now, right? So anything in construction, go sell windows, go sell doors, go work in customer care at those outfits. You look at other companies like Uber, Airbnb, DoorDash, all giving you entrepreneurial ways to be able to get in the game and to do something, right? You don't have to like it and love it. Do it for 2 or 3 years. Wait until we get out of this little global recession that we're in right now, and then you can go enter back into your field, but at least have some applicable skills that can then translate back into the field. But I just, I think you just have to watch the trends. Technology is just booming right now. The Apples, the Googles, the Amazons. People don't think about, if you look around, how many trucks are out on the road with Amazon delivering packages?
They're all over the place.
Everywhere. Who's driving these trucks?
Literally everywhere.
People.
Yeah.
Amazon's hiring 100,000 jobs right now.
They are. They're absolutely booming.
Exactly. So
and exactly what you're saying, as far as pivoting, you know what you like. If you try enough things, you can figure out a taste for what you like.
Yep.
But having that humility to step back and know I might have to do some things a little bit differently, or things that I might not like ultimately to get to where I'm going. And I can relate this back to myself. I got laid off in April from my old job. And, I spent a week or two feeling bad for myself. Oh, woe is me. Life is tough.
Yep.
You know the whole deal. And I'm I can take this as a time to complain and feel bad and get nowhere, or I can pivot, just like you said, and get into something that is actually what I want to do, which I'm now in healthcare software. I was where is the industry going? Healthcare, logistics. Yep. So that's where I'm going to go. So I think pivoting, that's
yeah. Just pick your passion of what you're in. I think I might be interested in healthcare. Well, then you should go get a taste of it. And if you like it, then great, explore more of that. And if you don't, cut it off and go do something else. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And dude, you've had such a success with both of these things. What is the ultimate plan? If you're gonna give advice to somebody that's saying, I'm doing well in my career right now, I'm starting to develop my side hustle. I've got, whether it's real estate or I've got, a podcast, or I've got an Etsy store, and I really want to make that my full focus. I want to jump ship from my job to full-time do living my passion.
Yeah.
What advice, because I know you're almost there yourself where you're at that jumping point. What advice would you give to somebody that's trying to get to that point?
Yeah. I would just say, you certainly don't make that jump until your passive income replaces your existing income. You shouldn't do it. You should have both operating at the same time. Because also realize too that while you have your current job provides things like benefits, things like that. You don't want to pay for that stuff. You want somebody else to pay for that stuff. So it's like, how do you get other people to pay for your stuff? It's like how you have to think about life. So if you say, hey, I want to go, I have rent that I need to pay that's $1,000 a month. All you have to think about is there's a couple ways to make $1,000 a month. I can go buy dividend stocks that pay me $1,000 a month. I can go buy a rental property and they have to pay my mortgage and then they have to overpay me about $1,000 a month. Or I have this job over here and it's got to pay me $1,000 a month so you just have to think about like, where would you get that $1,000 from, right? And that's called investments. Like where, what are your assets that are going to be able to produce that $1,000? So, I mean, I would just say that you got to find your passion. Mine was in hotels and hospitality. And it translates into real estate, which, by the way, like real estate is the fastest way to like getting to massive wealth. It's real. I mean, you buy dirt. There's no more land being created, and so keep on buying dirt. Secondarily to that, people are staying in my houses. I have to provide, just in the hotel business, customer service or guest service. I do the same thing for hospitality. In a hotel room, the toilet leaks. The shower leaks, right? And the toilet doesn't flush properly. Same thing in rental properties. So I was able to parlay the two together. What I could say is like hugely successful right now is Airbnb. Airbnb is building an experience-based platform that you could literally for $25 charge people and hike them up Camelback Mountain. You could post it today on Airbnb, and I could run something at 8 o'clock in the morning and 2 o'clock in the afternoon and take 2 groups up and make $200 a day. You could do that right now on Airbnb. Wow. If you like to go hike. For your house, if you have a 2-bedroom or you're like, I'm going away for the weekend, again, you got to think about this. So I really thought about this. I got a storage unit. I depersonalized my entire place, put all my pictures in storage, and decluttered it so it's minimalistic. And then everybody should have all of their houses listed on Airbnb. Why? Because you don't know who wants to pay what when they want to pay it. But when they do pay it, you go figure out where to go sleep. And so I've done this many times where, I have 9 houses. They all go rented. I have no place to go. Sometimes I stay in a hotel room. Sometimes I sleep on friends' couches. My married friends now don't appreciate me sleeping in their guest bedrooms because that's getting a little bit weird. In the 20s, that was okay.
It's okay. When
in the 30s,
when you're in your late 30s, you might not want to have Will over.
So I have to.
It's Wednesday.
So I have to go get 20-year-old friends now because I'm like, hey man, you don't mind if I sleep on your couch for the weekend?
There we go, dude. And I'm almost leaving there now too.
But at the end of the day, if you think about it, like, what would be a number that you would like get kicked out for the weekend? You're like, oh, I would need to make like $200 on a Friday and $200 on okay, so $400 on a 2-night length of stay. So you'd have to make $400. Well, on Airbnb, you could list your place for $200 a night, make it a 2-night minimum length of stay, and then just put your asset out there and then make money. It's really that easy.
This guy has 9 properties, and he will literally sleep in his car, sleep in his friend's house in order to sacrifice to make this thing happen.
Yes.
Like, if that isn't checking your ego and like having humility, I don't know what is. Like, you're never too good to hustle. You're never too good to eat dirt and grind. I mean, for God's sakes, Elon Musk had like what, $100 million from PayPal, and he reinvested that into SpaceX and Tesla, and he had no money left over. Right. Like, how bad do you want it? You have to ask yourself, like, if I have this dream or this goal, and like my ultimate goal is to have my own side hustle, or have that side hustle be my main hustle, what are you willing to sacrifice to get to that point? And what is your actual tangible plan to get there?
But at the end of the day, like, I have fun with it. Like, it's a game to me. It's like, I'll give you an example. I have to like leave on Thursday, going up to Flagstaff to go hang out with my friends. The reason is because I got somebody checking in on Friday to Monday. So I literally can't even be in my place. So while I go rent a hotel room, somebody else is paying for that because they're renting my place here. Mm-hmm. Then after that, I have like an 8-night length of stay person coming in. Wow. So I literally can't go back to my place.
1 second here.
Oh, there we go. So what I was saying is, it's like, sometimes you get these back-to-back bookings. And so I'm like, okay, well, I kind of need a vacation. I'm going to go out to California. And then what do? I either get another Airbnb for less than I'm renting my Airbnb out for, or go stay at a hotel. Hotels have like really dropped their rates right now because they're really hurting for business. And you can go stay there and have a nice vacation for yourself and explore another place to live. Like, think about that too. Nowhere in history Then this global pandemic, which you can literally work remotely from anywhere, potentially with your job, you know, depending upon your job, but you could work remotely from anywhere because everybody's working from home, and you can Airbnb somebody's house for 3 months. I don't know if I want to live in San Diego, but I'll go there for 60 days. Like, you can literally just move into somebody's house for 60 days. Don't bring any furniture. Everything's there. Everything's put together. And you just, hey, try it out. You know, what's the worst thing that can happen? You move back.
That is such a brilliant way to put it, because, you know, we already talked about the fear and the pressure and the anxiety. You know, you make something so large in your mind to where it's like, there's no way I'm going to do it. Like, there's nothing different between what you're saying right now and somebody who freaks out and never makes it happen. It's just how you contextualize it to your brain to basically say, hey, I'm going to try this out. It's not a big deal. Yep. And because of that, you did it.
That's it.
That's it. I'm blown away. I love that, man. That's beautiful. I wish we could go on forever. I mean, we've covered a lot of stuff today. I think there's some really, really great takeaways. I'm excited for people to see this one. But, you know, again, this is called the weekly intention. So I love to give people a weekly intention, something that they can take with them to say, hey, you know, this guy's done all these things. We talked about X, Y, and Z today. Yep. But if I could give one piece of advice based on your experience of, you know, balance, checking your ego, becoming an entrepreneur, that somebody could take a change, you know, make a change, I should say, in their life right now, what would that be?
I don't know what they personally could do, like personally, because I don't know everybody who's watching today, but I would just say build strong relationships with people. Honestly, like, I wouldn't have gotten to where I am today without strong people. And that's people from all aspects of life. On my rental properties, I need plumbers, I need electricians, I need flooring people, you know, I need bankers, you know, for my job, I need, you know, my team needs to perform, sell, learn product, be experts, you know, and I need to help them and enable them to do that. So I think you have to strengthen your relationships with people around you and in your circle. You need to look at the people that you're actually talking to and receiving feedback and input from, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. What are your thoughts on that? Or I see somebody successful in my circle. How did you do that? Why don't you tell me more about that? So as you said before, I ask a lot of questions. I obtain a lot of feedback. Feedback is a gift. It is not something to be defensive about. Like, you know, hey, how did I do today? Not so great. Well, feedback's a gift. Why don't you lay it on me? What could I do better during the next time? So I think, again, it's learning from other people. And again, there's a lot of people, diversity out there that knows different things that I'm not the expert in, and it's leaning on those people that can help you.
Well, you're an open book, and I definitely appreciate all of your insights this week. This has been absolutely amazing. We are doing these videos. I'm going to try to put out as many of these as possible. So if you're on YouTube, make sure to, you know, comment, subscribe, like this. If you're on Instagram or Facebook, you know, share this with your friends. If you're on the podcast, I'm literally putting this out everywhere, and I'm interviewing leaders just like Will on different topics. So we're going to have another one of these out here shortly. But again, Will, thanks so much for being here today. And until next time, this is Michael with the Weekly Intention. Take care.
Thanks, Michael.
See ya.